You're listening to Entrepreneur's Enigma, a podcast about the ups and downs of the entrepreneurial journey. Every week, your host Seth Goldstein interviews entrepreneurs from all walks of life about their entrepreneurial journeys. From store owners to Fortune 500 CEOs, we all have stories to tell. So sit back and join us for the next 20 or so minutes while we explore the entrepreneurial world.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Start over because I can't say my own name right now. 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. I am here as always. I am your host, Seth. Today I have Jeremy Shapiro. He is from the west side of the country, West Coast, the Bay Area. He is an author, a philanthropist, an investor. He is the head of the Bay Area Masterminds people. They, mastermind groups, where you talk and you help each other out and all that good stuff. He's also an entrepreneur, a consummate entrepreneur. He's been doing that a while. He likes to advise startups, and he's also a cyclist because he is in California. And why not? You just have to be careful what roads you ride on, right? You can't do the 404; you'll get hit.
Ha! Exactly.
And that's also down in San Francisco. That's also down in LA too.
Yes.
So I know a little geography out
right
there. So how's it going, Jeremy?
It's going great. I appreciate you having me on the show. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So you just got back from a whirlwind trip around all over the world. You were in Spain. You said you were in France?
Yeah, we were in Germany, France, and Spain, and had a good 9 weeks offline. And I'm back, refreshed.
That's why he's so energetic right now.
Exactly right.
He's balancing because he's got so much energy because he's been offline for that long. So I'm all drained. I'm all hunched over and all that stuff. He's like, "Let's go! I'm ready."
The kids will be back in school soon. You've got hope.
I know, and also his kids are back in school. I mean, this is coming out when this comes out in mid-September. The kid will be back in school, and I'll be a lot more relaxed.
Exactly.
Nah, I won't be, but whatever. But but apparently most places have their kids going back before Labor Day, but Central Bucks, where I am, has them the day like 2 days after. It's like, why? I mean, I get it, makes sense. After Labor Day, you go back to school, but this is early because we're recording this on the 12th of August, and your kids are already back in school, so they don't even get August, but they're off. But they're off. For all disclosure, they're off in May. You said,
I mean, growing up in New England, we were always back in school after Labor Day, kind of how it should be. But you're out mid to late June, and here in California, man, it's a different.
Everything is shifted.
It's totally different, yeah. So yeah,
I bet it's nice to be an entrepreneur because you can adjust with it, though.
Exactly. Yep.
So
one of my
kids
favorite parts of entrepreneurship, one of the best things, is what I call entrepreneurial freedom, right? And that just means,
literally. I mean, you were in Spain, France, and Germany for crying out loud because guess what? If you had the work, you could.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't have to because guess what? Who's the boss? You.
Yep. It's the good news and the bad news, right?
So how did this journey all get started? Have you always been an entrepreneur? Have you always been entrepreneurial in your mind? I mean, you said you're a New Englander because you have a little bit of a New England accent, not quite like my Philadelphia accent, but
my version of the New England accent is I talk fast, and if I'm talking too fast, keep up.
Keep up, exactly.
No, so yeah, entrepreneurism, has been a part of my life always. My first businesses, playing around were as a kid in elementary school, but my first real businesses were actually, partway through high school.
You started your early one.
Yeah. So when I talk about, real business, what I mean is multiple clients, revenue generating, building out a team and so on. Actually, partway through university is where, I faced that challenging crossroads of continue building the business where, I'm putting in 40 plus hours a week and building out a team while going to school, or, stay focused on school. And I made a difficult decision of putting school on hold while building my business. And that was, 25 plus years ago.
Have you gone back or not yet?
When my wife and I first met, it was around that time. And I told her the same thing I'm telling you, which is, I'll probably go back. I'm just taking a semester off. I'll probably go back. And
it's when maybe when you're fully retired, we might say, well, let me just get that degree to get it. Maybe not.
Maybe
it's overrated a lot.
So for our listeners who are debating this choice, right? Looking back, the big thing I do feel like I missed out on is that university network, right? The people you're in the trenches with, the alumni network you have forever on. for my friends, most of which who have gone through school and all that, to me, I think is just so valuable. Is these lifelong friends who.
How long were you in college for, though? I mean, how long did you do?
A year and a half.
Oh, so you weren't in like the senior year and then leave with like 3 credits.
No,
you kind of like, I'm going to go with the entrepreneurial
honest,
journey.
That second year, yes, I was holding down, a course load, not doing a great job because my focus was on the business side of things. But hey,
and honestly, nowadays you look at it, and I think like my kid, would benefit from. I mean, I know I benefited from a college experience, less the network per se. I have some good friends from college. I've got some deals from people like, hey, you are a Blue Hen, you're a Delaware alumni, all that good stuff. That's great. But it's also adult light, meaning that you can screw up a little bit more in college than you can if you're out in the real world.
It's more forgiving.
It's a little bit more forgiving. It depends on what it's trying to forgive you for.
Right.
But I mean, like, drinking alcohol underage, that kind of stuff, it's kind of like a slap on the wrist. Don't do that again. Please don't do that again. Of course, you do it again, that kind of thing. But ultimately, so you left college, you started the whole entrepreneurial journey. So have you ever worked for the man or the woman or the person?
My last like job was like high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was in high school. Tried that out, and
what did you do? Barista somewhere?
I was a host at a restaurant, and that was great and all, but I realized like employment has never ever been for me. I think I'm professionally unemployable, but I've been that way for over 25 years, and that's not a bad thing.
Especially now. Yeah. I mean, I look at my job and I'm looking at my business and I'm like, yeah, I couldn't work for someone else. I could partner with people. I partner with people all the time, but working for someone else and having to get toe the line. I've done that. I did a little corporate work.
Yeah.
I was a journalist for a little while. People who know my story know that I've done a lot of different things. I did it, but it's been 17 years on my own. I'm like, I can't do it anymore.
Well, if you think about it, right? Like as entrepreneurs, part of the reason we have businesses is we identify gaps in the marketplace, right? We see something that
should
not how it could or should be. And so not only do we see the opportunity, we have an idea about how to fix it, but most importantly, we then action that and we do something about it.
Love it.
When you're working a job, maybe you see an opportunity, but not always is it welcome for you to have a solution to fix a problem that may not be someone else's problem.
Exactly. And especially in corporate America, it's even worse than small business. Yeah. It's like, if it's not broken or not that broken, don't fix it. It's kind of like, that's not how mentality works. Yeah. So as an entrepreneur, you're like, there's a problem, we need to fix it. Because if we don't, when you're an entrepreneur, you're all on your ass.
Right. Well, even just socializing, you talk to friends who've got JOBs and the challenges they have from the workplace and their day-to-day work, our solutions as entrepreneurs aren't exactly welcome. It's just
we also think outside the box.
Yeah.
So we might think like way too far out of the box where IT won't let them do that.
Right.
Like literally there's constraints on them that they can't physically do it. Like they literally cannot type that website in to go do that thing because IT is deemed it not acceptable.
Right.
It's fun stuff.
Well, the nice thing about being the captain of your own ship is you get to make those decisions. You get to adjust course. You get to choose what the destination is and how to get there.
Yeah. I mean, there's downfalls, there's upfalls. That's a new word, but there's ups and downs, there's lefts and rights. And that's the whole idea of Entrepreneur's Enigma, is that it's talking about there's ebbs and flows to everything. Mm-hmm. And so you're an author as well. How many books have you written? Just one?
So I've been published over the years and, working on a book now, but a lot of the writing that I do as an author these days is actually writing up the journeys of entrepreneurs who found that entrepreneurial freedom I talk about so much. And so
I love that. We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show.
I've always enjoyed finding the patterns in things. So when you see a number of different entrepreneurs' journeys, you start to find those common threads and see what the commonalities are. And there's a lot we can learn from that. Because when you learn from somebody's one-off success, well, there may have been factors that we don't know about that are really behind the trajectory. But when you see the commonalities, that's where we can gather those lessons and ask ourselves what we can do to emulate that success.
Love it. And so then, what is the Bay Area Mastermind? Fill me in on that. Because I mean, you have a bunch of jobs, doing a bunch of different businesses. I'm sneaking a little side glance over your LinkedIn here, but you have a lot of founder, CTO, owner, partner, all this stuff. But the thing I find most interesting is you're a facilitator at the Bay Area Mastermind.
Yeah.
That can be a bunch of different things, masterminds. What makes yours special?
Yeah, the term mastermind has actually been misused a fair amount in the past decade or two. And I've been part of many mastermind groups over the years, and they've been so valuable to me. The whole idea of a mastermind actually goes back to Napoleon Hill in the 30s, published a book most of us know him by, Think and Grow Rich. And that's where he first introduces this concept, the power of the mastermind. And so if you think about it, when you're brainstorming or you're trying to figure out a new idea, think about the difference between you working on that on your own and you working on that with others and spitballing ideas and bouncing things off each other and developing off of other people's ideas and improving that, right? When you are in the same room with other people, it's not like you just get the benefit of everyone's individual mind. There's actually the creation of this third master mind that is the combination of those two or more minds in the room.
Or hive mind.
Yeah, or the hive mind, right? Yeah. So what we do at the Bay Area Mastermind is we sort of follow in the footprints of the format Napoleon Hill laid out. And we get together, like-minded, growth-focused entrepreneurs, and we talk about what's working, what's not working, and where individuals need help. And here's the thing that I find like so fascinating about this format is when we have people who test drive the mastermind. And so they join us for a day to see if it's a fit for them to be part of the group longer term. They come in with an idea of where they need help.
Yeah.
We've all got that big burning question, the thing that keeps you up at night that you think if I only could.
And it gets answered in 2 minutes. And that one gets answered in 2 minutes and you find out you have even bigger pressing issues.
Yeah. Well, there's the bigger issues you can find out about just in scratching the surface on that, right? There's also the areas where you have expertise, what I call like your superpowers, the things that you're like really good at, your core competencies. So those are the things we know, and the things we know we don't know. You think about like, what do you go and Google or what are the questions you ask? Well, the things you know that you don't know. The third category though, and this is where the real opportunity is in that bigger, huge, giant chunk of the pie of the things you didn't know you didn't know.
Yeah.
When you put yourself in that mastermind environment and you're around others who are openly sharing behind closed doors what's going on in their business, that's where you get exposure to the things you didn't even know you didn't know about. And that's where those biggest pivots we see happen in business, the biggest aha moments and the biggest opportunities are simply by surrounding yourself with the right people who are openly sharing about what's really going on and what the real challenges are. That's even
more important now with social media because I mean, like, for example, I look bigger than I actually am on LinkedIn. Like I'm all over the place. People think I'm like wildly successful. I can be successful from time to time. I've also can be very not successful from time to time. And the social media sphere really warps the sense of like everyone has problems in their business. Everyone has gone through that overnight 10-year success. Like they might be a success now. I mean, I'm sure, Jeremy, you've been in that, like where like it's been, oh, you look very successful. You're a philanthropist. You're an investor. You're doing all this good stuff. Now you can go travel for 3 months without I hope without caring them in the world, or very few, or other than your kids getting lost in Lisbon or something like that kind of stuff.
And that happened.
But like, but it's the overnight success is probably when you're in high school was probably a 20-year, overnight success. Whereas like, it's like, yeah, you're grinding. And then you have the success, but people don't see that trajectory. They only see the trajectory. They don't see the grind.
Yeah, we often use this story about the duck going across the water, right? Everyone sees the duck floating effortlessly across the water. Right? So smooth, but underwater, if you look, those feet are just paddling crazy. The turns of water, everything else going on underneath the water is what makes that duck look so smooth across the water. So
same thing with bike. Same with the cycling. To go back to your cycling, we're really going deep here. But with your cycling, when you're a cyclist, when you first learn how to bike, it's wobbly. Then you after you've been doing it for years, it's effortless. It looks effortless, but it's not an overnight success.
No. And
like I learned to ride a bike in a day.
Yeah.
But I didn't learn how to stop my bike for like 3 months.
Right?
Keep that in mind. I could go, but it's stopping. I have to jump off into lawns. Right. I couldn't figure out how to stop without hurting myself.
Yeah. You hurt a few bikes and, destroy a few pairs of shoes and hopefully don't get too scratched up, but you learn along the way. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's funny when I think about some of the more difficult rides I've done and some of the more competitive things, in the moment, it can be really, really tough, right? There can be really challenging parts of an unending, unrelenting steep climb, for example, right? Or those moments where you're chasing someone else's wheel and you just can't close the gap, no matter how hard you're trying. But then, like when the event's all said and done, you look back. I affectionately talk about like this entrepreneurial blinders we put on. You forget the pain, you forget the hard part, you forget the challenges.
You remember the romanticness of it.
Exactly, of it, right? You sort of have this blackout period of like, you black out that tough part. If you think back, it's there, but the overall feeling is the success, the completion, the so on.
Awesome. So in your mind, and I think I know the answer to this already. I think we all do because you kind of answered it already. But what's the best thing about being an entrepreneur? And this can be the best thing about being an entrepreneur as a high school student through your whole journey. It can be right now, which we do know the best is that you're able to go travel the world for 3 months with your kids.
Yeah. So, I feel the best part about being an entrepreneur is what I call entrepreneurial freedom. And when I talk about that, people usually think I mean like this financial freedom side of things. I'm like, yeah, sure, that's important too. But really, I'm talking about the freedom of time, optionality. You getting to choose how you spend that time. Are you reinvesting it in the business? Maybe. Are you spending more time with family, spending more time in your community, with your church, pursuing hobbies, whatever it is for you, right?
Yeah.
It means you've got the choice. Versus you think about, folks with the job, it's somebody else saying you have to be here from this hour until this hour at this location. Right.
Or at your desk in your basement because it's remote, which is now.
Yeah. Or you've got to work on this project at this time. Right. When you have that optionality, you get to choose what clients you take on and which clients you say, I don't want to work with them. Right. You get to choose which opportunities
we all experience
or not.
Yeah. We all experience those clients who are like, I don't want to deal with that person.
Well, for many folks, if you're like in the services space, you might look back at clients you took on earlier on that you didn't enjoy working with, but you felt like you had to. When you hit that entrepreneurial freedom, there's no longer have tos. You now making conscious choices who you want to work with and what projects you want to work on, which leads to more fulfilling work.
And it's more fun, and you don't feel this existential dread.
Right.
And I mean, every once in a while, you'll still, even during the entrepreneurial freedom, it's not like a line where it's like you cross that line, you don't have to deal with baloney anymore. Now you're still going to hit one of those clients that you thought was going to be fun that isn't fun. And it happens, but less often.
But now you have the freedom to respectfully and kindly part ways. Exactly.
So on the flip side, what keeps you up at night as an entrepreneur? Other than your kids and them getting good grades in school.
No, they're awesome. We honestly, for me, like one of the best parts of entrepreneurial freedom is the time I get to spend with my kiddos, right? Like those first years are so formative. And I know there are some folks who have this romanticized idea that they're going to put in the 90-hour work weeks and work hard. And then when they get to retirement, then they'll have time to spend with their spouse, their kids, and so on. And that to me has always felt so backwards, right? Why wouldn't you put in that time now, planting those seeds, developing those relationships, and making those lifelong memories early on? There was somebody we knew. There was somebody we knew socially that both the husband and wife were attorneys, and they had a young kiddo about the same age as one of our kids, and that's the context where we met them. And like they were both burnt out. They hated their work, right? They worked crazy hours. They were never around with their kid. But here's what they told me. They said, Jeremy, we got a plan. We work these terrible corporate, council jobs. 5 years. They're like 5 years. We make really good money. In 5 years, we're good. We never have to work again. And I'm looking at their little kiddo in that car seat.
5 years. Those are formidable years.
Those are formidable years. And I'm thinking, great. So, you're going to have a 6-year-old who doesn't know you. And then you're going to say, hey, let's start building a relationship with a 6-year-old. And you weren't there for any of that time. Like that's really tough and kind of sad, but I get it. They're looking at the financial math, but how many years does that take off your life to work a job you hate, right? To work 90-hour work weeks, doing work you don't enjoy.
Yeah, I know.
But you feel you have to.
You might enjoy, I mean, especially being a lawyer, it's not, I mean, suits made it look romantic.
Right.
Suits made it look fun. I mean, I know plenty of lawyers are like, this is not fun.
Yeah.
This is like, or I know plenty of people who've gone to law school and guess what? Have never been lawyers. They might even pass the bar for shits and giggles. Yeah. Or not for shits and giggles. You'll never take the bar for shits and giggles, ever. It's perfectly clear. But they took the bar thinking they might do something with law.
Right.
But I'm not knocking law school. Law school is great because it teaches you the basis of business, all this good stuff. I'm not saying don't go to law school, but don't always have to be a lawyer.
Yeah. Well, even doctors, like, we've had au pairs who came from other families where both parents were doctors working crazy hours to the point they had, 2 childcare providers to provide near round the clock childcare because they were just all, they're working in the ER. They're literally saving lives. And we need that.
Which is rewarding and great, but you're missing out on another thing. It's hard. It's just tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. So what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time? And this, I'm going to pose this in 2 ways because this is fun. Because what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time while you're traveling and in everyday life?
So I think sort of that mental fortitude of knowing you can do tough things, right? Yeah. And it applies to, I think, in all areas. Going back to, we're talking about difficult bike rides, right? When you go out and you do something difficult or hard or challenging, you keep pushing those limits. Whatever else you do, you can look back on and remember, well, if I did that, then this challenge I'm facing is either not more difficult or only incrementally more difficult. And so like we talked to our kids before we headed off for travels, we said, like, look, there are going to be, Airbnbs or hotels or resorts or things that we check into that are not going to be what we expect. We're going to have issues with trains, planes, and everything else that just,
and automobiles.
Yeah. It's not going to go how we plan. And that's okay. Right? Like
but that's also the fun of it too. Sometimes, I mean, it depends. Sometimes you check into a hotel and it's a dump and you're like, all right, this is not that fun, but the memory's there.
Right. On the flip side, we're like, there are also going to be wonderful experiences that are going to delight us, that are going to be beyond what we expected. And for sure, certainly some of the core life memories and experiences that I have to date almost all go back to saying yes to something ridiculous, right? Yes to something stupid. Right? Yes to something outrageous, saying yes to something that everyone else looks at you and says, well, how would you do that? Yeah. Many years back, we took a trip. Our youngest, he was just about crawling, but not quite yet. But we went off
just about to get in trouble. Just about to get into trouble. Yeah.
Right. But we went off to the Mediterranean Sea and sailed out of Croatia. And, we got a catamaran and captained it ourselves. And, with another family, it was the 4 parents and the 4 little kiddos out on a 50-foot catamaran, for a week on the Med. And most folks are like, you are crazy. Like, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? And we look back at what incredible, experience it was for everyone.
You won't remember it, but, your pictures.
We have the pictures, the memories. Our daughter, she's a little older. She still remembers, and the photos and stuff help. Of, doing a cartwheel across, the netting on the front, near sunset. She still remembers jumping off the back of the boat anywhere we were just to go swim underneath and between the hulls, of going off to the rocky beaches and, the amazing, sandy beaches we'd visit and the cool places we go and the storms we encountered and all the things that happened, like core life memories from doing something most other parents are like, that'd be crazy to do.
That's an example right there. Storms. Yeah. You got to plan for them. They're not always fun. They're scary when you're in them. When looking back, you're like, hey, we survived it. We're not for the wear. Why not? It's the memory. They're like, hey, remember that big squall we went through? There was like, we all barfed over the side of the thing. It was just nasty. But we made it through. And then remember the moment when it stopped? Like that kind of thing. It's just like the light comes out. It's like, oh. Yeah. I can only imagine how, like, not to be religious or spiritual or anything like that, but how religious or spiritual it was, even if you're an atheist, how awe-inspiring that must have been.
Yeah. And, life is full of these core memories and incredible experiences that often stem from not doing the easy thing. Like the easy thing can be sitting on your couch watching Netflix. Like that's easy. But if you look back, is that leading to a fulfilling life, right? Is that creating core memories that are valuable to you?
Exactly. I think about what we just did. We went to Niagara Falls with a kiddo. Yeah. He has a massive amount of anxiety, and as we're there, it was not the best vacation because he's got a massive amount of anxiety. And we're like, why would we take him to like the 3rd or 4th biggest waterfalls in the world with a kid who has tons of anxiety? Like, what the heck possessed us? Yeah. But the kid went up to the hurricane deck on the American Falls. I mean, granted, it's because there was no bugs under the water. I mean, I'm not going to give him total credit for doing that, but still, I mean, this kid with tons of anxiety went up there and experienced that. It's something he's never going to forget.
Remember that forever. Yep.
And it's a core memory. I look back on it and I'm like, oh my God. And you almost you remember the trials, tribulations, you remember the fights and all that stuff. Yep. but they're so much more muted.
Yeah.
Like they happened and you can learn from them, but they're also, you can remember how much fun you had.
Yep.
It was like him running down the tunnel and also emerging, you're right next to the horseshoe falls outside the power plant. Like it's weird stuff that like you weren't expecting to see that.
And that entrepreneurial ability to block out the difficult parts and remember the best parts is what keeps you ratcheting up and moving forward. So
and why you're nuts enough to keep going.
Right.
People always ask, why are you still going? I'm like, I don't remember the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Until it happens again, you're like, well, I have to learn from my bad stuff. That's kind of thing.
Well, one of my friends, he said, we were on a tough ride at some point, and he was like, hey, one pedal stroke at a time. And
one foot in front of the other. All that.
It'd be easy to unclip and just put a foot down and say, like, forget this, or, I'm just going to turn around and go back down. But you keep climbing, and wouldn't you know it, thousands to tens to hundreds of thousands to millions of pedal strokes later, you get to some pretty cool places.
I know. It's very cool. All right. So where's the best place for people to find you online? Is it LinkedIn? Like, where do you hang out the most?
Yeah, I certainly publish a fair amount on LinkedIn, and you and I are connected there. But for sure at bayareamastermind.com, that's where I have a ton of resources. Those interviews I was talking about are there. Yeah. Information on what a mastermind group is, how to find one, how to start one, how to join one, and so on. All that is, is freely available at bayareamastermind.com.
Very cool. Jeremy, this has been so much fun. This was worth the wait while you gallivanted around the world. We'll have to stay in touch, have you back on some point soon. But this has been so much fun, and we'll see everyone next week.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Great show.
That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneur's Enigma, please consider giving us a review in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps us reach new listeners. If you like Entrepreneur's Enigma, consider the other shows on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net.
Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.